Hello and welcome to the very first full-bit video tutorial series. In this video, we're going to set up our own Linux development environment on Windows using VirtualBox and Ubuntu. The setup is very flexible and will allow you to work in a Unix environment from your PC while still working with your files via Windows. Let's get started. The first step that we're going to need to take will be to download VirtualBox and an Ubuntu image. So we'll start up our browser and we'll go to Google and search VirtualBox. Then we'll go to downloads. And because we're working on Windows strictly for this tutorial, we'll go to Windows hosts, and that'll start downloading for us. And then while this is downloading, we're going to go back to Google, and we're going to search for Ubuntu. We're also going to go to download here, but we're actually going to go download Ubuntu server, which is what we're looking for. 16.04 is the latest stable, which is fine for us. So we'll go ahead and download that image. Should start any minute here. There we go. So now that our image and our VirtualBox installation file is downloaded, we'll go ahead and start the VirtualBox installation. So we're just going to run through the setup wizard here. It should be fairly straightforward. For the most part, you can just keep all your default settings, so that's good. Again, you can fix these if you'd like, but I think I'll just leave them as they are. There's a warning about our network interfaces, which you can read, but yes, that's fine. And we want to click install. So this will take a little bit of time here, so I think I'll just skip over for us. And there we go, the installation is completed, so we'll just go ahead and hit finish. You'll notice that there will be a dialog that pops up mentioning the restart. This is definitely necessary, so go ahead and click yes and do the restart right now. Alright, now that we've done our restart, we're going to create our virtual machine for our development environment. So you open up VirtualBox. There'll probably be an icon on your desktop by now, or there should be at least. You go ahead and click New. We want to name our development environment. We want to call it, I'm going to call it DevBox. And then we're going to go Linux for type. In Ubuntu 64-bit is exactly what we need. So we go next. For RAM, I'm going to leave it at 1024. If you need a little more oomph, you can go ahead and bump it up, but I'm going to leave it at the default for now. Create a virtual hard disk now, which is what we need to do. So create, we choose VDI, which is a virtual disk image. Dynamically allocated, which is also fine. Let's go next. And we're going to leave it at 10 gigs. If you need more, bump it up, no problem. But for learning's sake, we're just going to leave it at 10 gigabytes. So go create. So that created our virtual machine. Again, this is a bare virtual machine. So now our next step is going to be to install Ubuntu. With these newer versions of VirtualBox, it's relatively easy. Just click on the VirtualBox, click Start. So this boots up and it asks us to select a startup disk. What you're going to do is you're going to end up selecting the Ubuntu image that we downloaded. So you click this little file icon here. Mine's on my desktop. I've already moved it. There we go. And you just go Open and you click Start. And that'll use the Ubuntu image that you downloaded to start the Ubuntu installation. Get rid of these little pop-ups here. There we go. So now we'll just quickly run through the installation for Ubuntu. A lot of the default settings are fine and will probably be fine for you as well. So English, yeah. We want to install Ubuntu server. There we go. English, yep. United States, sure. I'm in Canada, but we'll go with the United States for now. Detect keyboard layout. No, I already know my keyboard layout. I know it's English US, so I'll go English US. English US is fine. So it's going to continue the installation. And this is going to take a little while, especially depending on your hardware. Network configuration was successful. That's good. Host name, you can leave it Ubuntu. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it Ubuntu. Continue. Full name of the user. My name is Colin Morgan. There we go. And username is Colin. That's fine. Choosing a password for the user. Just for this, we'll go password. I know that's a strong password. And re-verify password. There we go. Do I want to encrypt the home directory? No, it's not really a big deal for us. This is a local VM, so it's not like we're sharing it. Yeah, that's my time zone, so that's good. So we'll go guided, use entire disk and set up an LVM. That's fine. Again, select the disk partition, which is also fine. And then we want to go yes, write changes and configure LVM. 10 gigabytes, which was what we decided before, is fine for the partition. Write changes to disk, yes. For HT proxy, we don't need a proxy, so we're just going to go continue. We're going to go ahead and click no automatic updates. And for packages, just going to leave them all blank. Some of these are pretty useful if you know exactly what you're working with. For example, a LAMP stack, if you know if we're working with PHP, and Apache, that sort of thing, Postgres databases, and OpenSSH, which is something that you will probably need a little bit later. But for now, we're going to leave them all blank. So just press enter. So yes, we want to install the grub bootloader. This might change if you were actually working on a Linux box or an actual Linux computer, but we're not, so we'll just use the grub bootloader rather. It looks like it's done, so we go ahead and say continue. It's going to do a reboot. Okay, and get rid of these pop-ups. And it looks like it's booting, which is good. And there we have it. So our first login will be obviously the username and then password. And there we have it. We have a running Linux virtual machine that we can use for our development environment. Okay, so our next and final step will be to create a shared folder through VirtualBox that we're going to mount within our new Linux VM. This will give us the ability to work with files on the Linux box using our Windows as kind of the medium, which is really nice when it gets to using text editors through Windows, so that you're not locked into using Unix-based text editors like Vim if that's not something that you're interested in. So you can go ahead this way. You can go ahead and use Sublime Text or Atom or whatever IDE or text editor that you like that you can get for Windows. You can go ahead and use that using this file share. So first things first, we're going to go in and we're going to update our package manager. So just do sudo apt-get update. It's going to ask you for the password, which is fine. So that'll go ahead and update. Looks good. The next step that we're going to take is we need to install some VirtualBox utilities that'll help us mount our shared file. So we go sudo apt-get install VirtualBox guest utils. So that'll install that. So particularly, this is going to install the file system extension that VirtualBox uses to mount its files, or sorry, its shared folders. Okay, there we go. So now that the VirtualBox utilities package is installed, we're going to create a folder. So just do make directory. I'm going to call mine source. And we're just going to make it right in our home folder. So this is the place that we're going to mount our shared folder. So next we're going to go sudo vim etc fstab. And this is the fstab configuration file. I've used vim to open this. If you're not familiar with any of the Linux text editors, you may have to do a quick read up on them. There's a couple of nano, vi, vim, that sort of thing. So I'll just briefly do this. So first we do the name of the share, which is source. We add the location of the folder, which is the one that we just made, source. We do the file system, which is VBox SF, which was installed when we just installed our VirtualBox utilities. We just want the default option and 0, 0 for the dump and pass, and we save that and quit. Again, if that's confusing, if you're not used to Linux text editors, just do a quick Google search for Vim. It'll show you kind of the basic commands on how to move around. And again, you don't really need to know or understand this entry, other than that it's going to mount our shared folder for us. Let's see here. So we also need to go, we need to go sudo vim etc modules, and we're going to need to add VBox SF, which is the VirtualBox file system type, to this modules file. This is just allowing fstab to use this file extension when it mounts. So we just save this, and that's it for our VirtualBox. So we'll shut that down. Click the X, go power off. So now on our Windows machine, we want to create a file, or sorry, a folder to parallel. So we'll call it source as well. And now we'll go to our dev box. We'll go settings, shared folders. We want to create a new one with the folder path that we just created, which was on the desktop. Source, there we go. And we just call it source, that's fine. And we don't want to auto mount because we're going to be doing that through fstab, and we don't want read only because we're going to be writing. So you click OK, OK, and now we want to boot up our virtual machine. Get rid of that. All right, so we log in. And so we're going to do an ls, which is just showing how many are showing the folders in our current directory. Okay, so you can see that there's a green outline around the source folder, which means that it most likely mounted properly. So to test this, right now, there's nothing in our folder. So what we're going to do is, yeah, okay, there we go. We're going to create a file. So we'll just create a text file, and we'll go test.txt. Okay, we're not going to add anything to it yet. So get rid of that. So now we want to do an ls source, and you'll see, ooh, I accidentally gave that a double extension. Let's get rid of that. There we go. So we go ls source, and you can see that the text file is now available in through the Linux, through the shared folder in Linux. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open that up in Vim, test.txt, and I'll say hello world, and then we'll save that. And now if we go back through our windows, you'll see that we have hello world in our file. So this is the crux, the key point of this development setup is that we can mount this folder and share files between these two systems, between our Windows OS and the Linux OS. So this gives us two things. It gives us the power to work within a Linux environment, which mirrors much closer what is going to be a production environment for your application's code. Um, it'll account for a lot of discrepancies that may occur in Windows installations, that sort of thing. And also, it'll give us the flexibility to maintain and manage our code through Windows and through Windows software, um, such as text editors. I mean, obviously, you're not going to use Notepad. I hope you wouldn't. But you can use, whatever you want. If you have Sublime, you can use Sublime, Atom, whatever. Um, and that's just like um, a very valuable setup. Okay, so there you have it. We have a fully functioning Linux development environment on our Windows operating system using VirtualBox and Ubuntu. You can you can write code using Windows, and you can run that code using Linux. You can manage it in Linux using Git. You can manage it in Windows using, Tortoise. Um, you can use the best tools of both while keeping your code in an environment or running in an environment that's as closest to production as you're probably going to get without actually working on a production instance. Um, and I think, at least for me, it's been a very fluid way of working on a daily basis, and it really is something that I use on a daily basis. This is how I do all my programming. This is how I do all of my development. When I do client work, it's on a virtual box, an Ubuntu virtual box. I run it on my home network. I can SSH into it from other computers on my home network, and it's a really smooth setup, and it makes developing on Windows much easier. That brings us to the end of our tutorial. I hope that this video has provided some value, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. Check back in the near future for more full bid tutorials.